A very pleasant good afternoon to all of our viewers and those who are joining us via Second Advent Radio. We're delighted to welcome you to Let's Talk for this Sabbath afternoon, being the 5th of February. Wow, can you believe it? We're in February already. Time is truly going by very, very quickly. This afternoon, we have an exciting topic that we want to share with you. I know that you are going to be interested in this discussion because we are going to be talking about, or rather with, individuals who have left the church but who have returned. We want to explore why they left, what were the circumstances that led to their departure, the issues, what happened, the experience while they were out there in the world, and what prompted them to return. These are the issues we are going to be dealing with, and we trust that our discourse will be indeed a very meaningful one. Before I introduce our special guest this afternoon, we want to just invite you to have a word of prayer with us. So wherever you are, if you're able to, just bow your heads as we have a word of prayer. Eternal Father and our God, be with us as we go into this afternoon's session. We pray that you will be with us as we discuss this very important subject. We ask for your Spirit's guidance. We pray that you will take full control, be with our guests, and grant that this discussion will prove meaningful in helping some soul to see the value of loving your church and staying faithful to you. Guide us and keep us, we pray, in your precious name. Amen. Well, friends, this afternoon we have three individuals who have agreed to talk with us as we discuss this very important subject. You know, the reality is the Seventh-day Adventist Church is reputed to be one of the fastest growing Christian denominations around the world. By some estimates, we baptize around 2 persons every minute. That amounts to about 120 persons every hour, or get this, 2,880 persons every day. This, however, is not real growth. This only takes into account the additions. The reality is our statistical reports at the General Conference continue to show that we are losing about 40% of our gains. And that is a very disturbing figure. Church leaders have realized for a while now that this is a serious issue. The question really is, why are we losing members? Today, we will attempt to answer that question. I did say attempt. At least we will share some perspective. We have with us 3 individuals who were in the church, left the church for various reasons, but now they have returned. We hope to engage them so that we can gain insights into the why behind people leaving the Seventh-day Adventist Church, what happens after they leave the church, and the challenge they face upon their decision to return. This conversation will require more than we can cover in one afternoon, so most likely we will go into next week again. But in the meantime, we want to welcome our guests. I'll introduce them to you one at a time. First, we have Mrs. Denise Thompson. I have to get accustomed to that name. I have to say that. I once pastored this lady. Mrs. Denise Thompson. She's a mother of 2 children, considers herself to be a role model for lots of youths across Antigua Barbuda, where she's from, and she says even in the wider region. She is creative and enjoy, rather, she is creative and rather enjoys decorating. She does some horticulture, but she's a full-time staff at Cable and Wireless, where she holds a position of recharge and distribution executive. She's a recent widow. We're delighted that she's able to still come and be with us this afternoon. I just want to say welcome to Mrs. Denise Thompson. Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson.
Good afternoon, Pastor, and good afternoon to all the persons who are listening this afternoon. For me, this is a very important discussion, and I I wouldn't have missed it for the world, because if we had discussions like these going on years ago, our church would not be hemorrhaging the way that we are.
All right, interesting. That sounds like we will have some good things to talk about. Well, we're going to go to our second guest this afternoon. We have with us a young man. I encountered him while visiting an evangelistic campaign some years ago in St. Kitts, St. Christopher Nevis. Brother Eustace France. He currently serves as an elder in the Faith in Emmanuel Seventh Adventist Church. I have to say that when he sent me his photo this during the week, I had to look 2 times, 3 times to say, is this the same person? Because he was looking very, very differently. I suppose he will share why that is so. He says that he was first baptized into the church in Bastia as a young boy at the age of 11, very active. He was exposed to Pathfinder Club, AY ministry, attended youth camps and those kinds of things. I'd be interested to know why he left the church after having all of that exposure, but he later left the church. And then he recommitted, praise God, through baptism in 2018 during the Good News Gospel Extravaganza hosted by Evangelist Claudius Morgan. Since his return to the faith, he has been taking his walk with God very seriously. I happen to know that he has conducted the 2-week evangelistic series with another elder, and it is a joy to see that he has come back and he is on fire for God. Brother France, good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk.
Good afternoon, Pastor. Good afternoon and happy Sabbath to all. And a shout out and a happy Sabbath and a pleasant Sabbath to my mother all the way over in St. Croix. I know that she'll be listening. And also a shout out to my family here in St. Kitts, a supportive family. And shout out to my Faith in Emmanuel Church here in St. Peter's. It's a pleasure to be here. The pastor said that he was surprised at my picture. Yes, folks, I had my dreads. I shaved my dreads for the new year. We know that everything lasts for a season. And thank God by his grace and his glory, we are still here. So good afternoon, and it will be a pleasure sharing my experience with the region and the world. Thanks.
Wonderful. And our final guest, actually the first person I thought about when I decided to have this program, and I tell you why. I remember many years ago, as I indicated, I didn't indicate, but I also pastored this young lady that I shall introduce in a while. But I was conducting a family life seminar. Lots of you who watch this program know that I am also into family life. If you listen Second Advent at 2 p.m. and Sabbath afternoons, and also on SLC Adventist, you will notice that Dr. Bradford and myself, we do the program called the Marriage Encounter. Well, a few years ago, I was conducting a seminar in the New Bethel Church in Antigua, where she's a member. And we were doing a single parenting seminar. And I was making a point about the challenges and struggles of single parenting. And she, I don't know whether she remembers it, but she put up her hand and said, Pastor, can I just say something? And I did give her the opportunity to say something, and she spoke. She shared a little testimony of her experience. It was such a powerful testimony. When she was finished, I didn't need to say anything else. The point was made. The people got it. She was able to say it much more forceful than I could ever have said it. And so when I thought of this program, I said, I have to have Miss Debbie Hughes on this program. When I called her up, she willingly consented. We are delighted to have her with us. I did ask her to give me a few things to say about her but she's pretty down to earth. So very short and to the point. She's a teacher for 19 years, presently stationed at the Antigua Girls High School, I believe it is. And she's a Seventh Adventist, and she loves the Lord. Sister Hughes, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. I'm just one correction, not the Antigua Girls High School, no, the Antigua Grammar School.
Oh, Antigua Grammar School. My apologies for that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So, as I said, good afternoon to everyone. I am accepting the invitation to be here. In accepting the invitation to be here. You know, this is an open forum. It's not our little church or a little, you know, group. So I'm just praying that whatsoever is shared, or whatsoever I share, that it can be of benefit to someone who is listening.
And that's thank you so much. That's the idea. Our desire is that the information, this discussion is really designed to challenge us to look critically at our church. You know, on Let's Talk, we deal with real issues, and we want to look critically at our church. We want to look at what we're doing wrong, how we can be more intentional in ministering to people, in considering people's needs, their feelings. And so as I speak with you this afternoon, and as you share, I know very many persons out there have their own experiences. Of course, we can't bring everybody on Let's Talk. We just wouldn't have the time, but we trust that this experience today will prove meaningful. Well, I want to begin the discussion by asking all three of you, based on my understanding, you all three grew up in the Adventist church, or at least were associated with the church way back. Please share with us your very early memories of the church. What was it like? Maybe I should ask Brother France. I shared just now that you were actively involved in pathfinding, AY youth camp and the like. Give us just a little bit about your early years in the church.
Well, for me, the church was like a way of escape, or should I say a safe zone for me. You see, my mother was a Christian and still is a Christian, and my father was an alcoholic. And you do not want to be around when he gets on the other side of the fence, all right? So going to church for me was a way of escape. And my memories of the church was off the chart. I can tell you, it was off the chart. I was involved with the adventurers, the pathfinders. I could tell you that I don't even think that I miss a day of pathfinders. You know, I was also involved with a famous group here on our island of St. Kitts, which was known as the Twilights. It was a group of young men, you know, who traveled our island and also different islands, proclaiming God's words through song. All right. So my involvement and memory of the church, it was very excited to me and very knowledgeable, and it really shaped me.
Now you also said that you attended several camps. You have been to a few youth camps. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been to a few youth camps, you know, and I've been into Antigua, right, and so forth, many youth camps. Right, and those memories of those youth camps helped me to embrace life, see different people, and share different experience from a different standpoint. Right, so my experience in camp and life campery was great as well. I also encourage my kids, all right, as well, to go and experience those life.
All right, let me ask Sister Debbie Hughes. Sister Hughes, what are your early memories of the church?
Well, I would say I never really began to go to church on a regular basis until I was about 10. I used to go when we were younger. I used to go, and Aunt of mine, she used to come by our home and she would take us. So for the I remember I have little snippets of the Sabbath school classes that were downstairs, like the kindergarten. But going to church regularly began at around 10. And I must say that they were very good experiences. Um, when I first went, I was introduced. I think one of the first things that stuck out at me was a children day service, the first children day service that I ever saw. And at that time, they were singing the song "In His Time." He makes all things beautiful in His time. And from hearing it that one time, it stuck with me. It always made an impression on me. And then when I found out about like the Pathfinder program, you know, just like what Eustace says, I was pretty much try to be involved in all of that because it was a new experience. I was more accustomed to being out playing on a Sabbath, and just, doing your own thing. So in being involved in all of those activities, it was really enjoyable. I used to enjoy the swimming classes, the different camps that I was allowed to go to, the picnic. It was a really carefree time for me, but, just being involved in all of that, it was just different from the norm. And I must say also that it's where I learned this thing they call morning watch. When you had to recite all these different texts and, not wanting to be left out or not wanting to, when you're being tested, you don't know. I used to like stay up in the nights and try to memorize all of them, that by the Sabbath, when we had our Pathfinder meeting, I was able to recite from Sunday to Sabbath. And, you do your Sabbath school lessons and all of these different things. So I must say that it was good for me. It was a different experience than what I was accustomed to because we actually moved to Liberta when I was 10. And so being close to the church, just like kind of little escape also too. Not escape from anything really, but it was just a different experience, to just be a part of it and to just be a part of everything that's going on.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Now let me ask our final guest, Sister Denise. Share with us what are your memories of early years in the church?
Okay, so I'm a fifth generation Adventist. My grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, everybody was Seventh-day Adventist. So I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist church, did everything Seventh-day Adventist way. I remembered we used to go to one church in All Saints where every Sabbath morning, Mommy used to have, I think it was 5 of us. She has 11 children. 5 of us were the smaller set. And we had to go on this pickup every Sabbath morning to go to church. And this was with, I can remember the Elder Brown, Eldine Brown. Every Sabbath morning, he'd pick us up, take us to church in All Saints. And then, we went through all the programs that the church had. One of the things that I can recall though, my father was a drunkard, yes. So we basically have the same thing. But we used to go to church on Saturday and on Sunday because we had a neighbor who was a pastor. So we used to go along with the pastor to his church on a Sunday. But one of the things that sort of caught me as a young person, it was the Alliance group that was formed in Liberta by Delvin and AGL, and they were teaching us to sing. And I'm going to give you all a joke. I can't sing. So I used to be in the background saying peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that got me in the group. So I was there in the group. But my experience was all the camps, and we did everything. We were, you could call us the Adventists who basically went to church on a Sunday. That was how it was. Our sound relationship with God for me came further on, but then that was one of the things that I remembered. And I also went through the Seventh-day Adventist school, so you can understand that we were Seventh-day Adventists straight through. But we had, I can just leave that there for now.
Okay, so this is an interesting discussion. Two of you grew up in the church, so to speak. The other, you came in later on in life. But somewhere along the line, you all left the church. Now, I want to ask, you all seem to suggest that your early years in the church were pretty exciting, very encouraging. When did things begin to change? Let's not even talk about the departure yet, but when did things begin to change? How is it that you moved from being so excitedly involved in pathfinding and camping and that kind of thing to eventually stop going to church and then leaving the church? I don't know who wants to attempt.
I'll go first on that one. I'll go first on that one. Unfortunately for me, I left the church when I was in my 30s, like really left the church when I was in my 30s. It started to change for me when an incident happened, and I just didn't think that the church handled it the correct way. For me, I was, just a little background, I was Adventurers leader, AY leader, Women's Ministries director, Island Women's Ministries council member. I was auditor for the church. Every position that you possibly could have thought, my hands were up and saying, okay, Lord, I'm going to do this. One of the things that happened though, for me in that stage was that I was not connected to God. So everything that went wrong, I took it personal. Okay, they're attacking me, that kind of thing. And for me, I just said, okay, I'm tired of doing this. It's like, give a donkey, put donkey water up the hill, or some story somebody used to say to me, you give a donkey, Adventist people give donkeys water to take up until their back break. And that was my whole thing of saying, okay, I'm not doing anything else in this church. I didn't like how they handled this. I didn't like it. And I just started to just drift away, and I drifted. And one person that stuck with me and said to me, what is at your age? What are you doing out in the world? There's nothing out there. But you wanted to experience it for yourself. And you thought that I used to wear my Decker jewelry. I knew better because they didn't matter to me. I tried to say, okay, it's to bother the persons that are talking about it, but it was really affecting my relationship with God. And I had to get down and buckle down and say, Denise, you need to have a relationship with God.
I wanted to slow down a little bit. I wanted to slow down a little bit because you mentioned something that is very interesting. You said you were very involved. You were, I can't even remember, adventure leader and women's ministries and whatever else. But then I thought I heard you say you probably were not very connected to God. Did I hear you correctly?
That is correct. Because even if something goes wrong, and this is what I've learned over the years, things are going to go wrong. Somebody's going to step on your toes, and they might do it in a wrong way. And you have to be mature enough, and you have to be connected with God enough to understand and to know that it's not about the other person. It's not about the persons. It's about your relationship with God. So even though I was angry at the church, believe you me, I was angry at the church. I had to catch myself and realize, hey, church is God's church. Nothing is going to happen. That's God's church.
So then we're going to come back to you in a while, because I want to pursue that. But you left because you did not like how the church treated whatever it was that happened.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, so let me go to brother France. Brother France, where did things begin to change? You were so involved. You were camping. You were singing and the like. How did things begin to change?
For me, things begin to change when the power of influence and curiosity of the world started to step in. Remember, I was a part of a famous group here on the island, and we were well known here on the island of St. Kitts. The group was known as the Twilight. And when that group ended, a part of me also ended as well, because that group was the one in which hold me together during all this curiosity. And after the group ended, curiosity stepped in, and I ended up with 2 children by 2 different mothers in the same year, just days apart. I left the church basically because I was ashamed. I knew I let down the church. But most of all, I knew that I let down the youths of the church who was looking to us for guidance. And what hit me most, the youths of the church thought that it was cool for me doing that. And I could not have looked back to them at that time and let them know that it wasn't cool. So I stepped away, no longer wanting the youths of the church to look up to me. My reason is because I was ashamed. So I walked away.
So Brother Franz, if I may ask you, you indicated just now that you were a part of this famous group. So you were popular, you were a superstar, so to speak, or maybe not a superstar,
yes,
but
we
a
were.
local star. And did you at that time, you said when the group ended, that kind of left you in shambles. Were you more connected to the group than you were connected to God?
Well, that's a good question. And I will say, yes, I was more connected to the group than to God. We know he was singing his songs and his praise in honor to him. But along with my peers, together with my peers, we did develop this bond that we need to stick together, and we have to stick together in order to get this work. So I think that I was more closer to the group than to God himself.
Now I'm seeing something that is rather very interesting here, because when I spoke to Denise earlier, she said that she was involved. She was women's ministry. I mean, she was a church board member, it seems, very involved, but her connection to God was not very strong. You were involved in a music group, ministering for God, but then there were some question marks about your connection to God. So what I'm getting here is that it is not sufficient for us to be actively involved in church. We need to be very connected to God. We will come back to that in a while. That's very interesting. I want to ask Miss Hughes to come in and share where did things begin to go wrong, Sister Debbie?
Well, for me, I will say this, that my circumstance in living didn't have anything to do with any individual. It's just something that happened to me. I got pregnant as a teenager, and I guess because I was not so much educated, I would say, in how the church functions, because I knew that I always heard that when these things happen, they weed you out. And so I was just reasoning and listen, if I'm going to be read out, the best thing to do, you just don't go back. And so I just stepped away for that reason and for that reason only. But it is so interesting because for the times that even when I wasn't there and even when I was home, I used to always, still be praying. Yes, you're doing your own thing, but you still prayed, you still talk to God. And what I used to notice that every time I would pass the church, going about my way, my heart would just feel warm. It's just like if the Lord was always saying, I'm not mad with you. You need to come. I'm not mad with you, but that was my circumstance in leaving. No one ever came in mind as in anybody did anything. It was just that thing that happened, and for my understanding of how the discipline went, I just decided I was just gonna save everybody the trouble, and I would just leave.
Okay, very interesting. I'm going to now again. We are seeking to look critically at the Seventh Adventist Church. We are to be a caring, loving community, and here, if you're just joining us, we're talking with three guests, individuals who at one point in their lives have left the church but have all returned, and we're seeking to understand the circumstances that led to their departure and what happened specifically during that absence. So I want to ask you, again, any one of you can decide, who will answer. So why did you leave? Sister Hughes just shared that she got pregnant. You said during your teen years. Sister Thompson said she left during her 30s. So she was an adult and pretty involved in officer of the church. And Brother France, you left when your group broke up, and you said you got 2 children, and that caused you to leave. Now, when you, each of you has maybe a different set of circumstances, but when you left the church, what happened when you got your 2 children? Brother France, Sister Hughes, when you got pregnant, Sister Thompson, Denise, when you left, what did you get notification from the pastor that they're taking action, you were going to be disciplined, you're no longer a member of the church, or was it that you just felt that, well, since I have a child, I'm not a member of the church anymore? Tell me what happened.
I could share my story. When when I left, I meet with members. I will meet them along the street, and they will let me know that they are there for me, and so forth. I didn't get no visit from the pastor. I got a call 14 years after, and let me know that I was disfellowship from the church. And
sorry, you got a call how long after?
14 years.
14 years after.
14 years after.
Oh,
and let me know I was disfellowship from the church. And with that, I vow that I will never enter another Seventh-day Adventist church again. Because I'm saying that at that time, I didn't even have a phone when I left. All right. And you guys knew my number, and not even pick up the phone to call to ask how I'm doing. At that time, I know I was going through a real difficult time at that stage in my life with my family, and just getting the call just pushed me right over the edge. So I'm just saying that we have to be mindful and curious in
well, let me back up a little bit, Brother France, because I did say that we are here this afternoon to look critically at the church. We want to learn from the experience of others. We want to examine what we do wrong. And, I function as president of the conference. I am aware, I have met many individuals who are angry with the church for how, quote unquote, how they were treated in their departure from the church. But let's just step back a little, because I want to go to that 14-year thing in a while. But you got two ladies pregnant in the same year. That was your report earlier.
Yes.
When that happened, did you get a visit from your pastor? Did anybody come to counsel with you, to sit down with you, to talk things over and to encourage you to anything of that nature happen?
No, nothing of that nature happened. I just meet individual along the streets. When I meet the former members or members along the streets, they will let me know that they are there for me. In particular, I could remember sitting down and talk to my director, Director Clark. He let me know as well he's there, and that I know my way back home. All right, but to say that a pastor come and visited me, nah. So I think at that time I made the right decision for the church by stepping away.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. Let's see, who do we go to next? Sister Hughes, you got pregnant. You said that you used to hear that when a person gets pregnant, they were going to be disfellowship. When you got pregnant, what happened? Did you get a visit from your pastor, your elder, your Sabbath school class? Did they come? Did they pray with you? Did they say, listen, this is a mistake you made, but we want to work with you. We want to encourage you. What happened when you got pregnant?
Nothing. I just didn't go to church. I doubt anybody noticed I was even missing. Except for like family members. I had an aunt, she used to come and she used to talk to me, she used to talk to us, except for family, that was it. And it's not something that really bothered me, because even though I was, when I say involved, you're taking part in different things, but as in to say that you knew a lot of people, that wasn't the case. So most of my friends were not Seventh-day Adventists in terms of, friends. Like I knew persons in the church, but I can't definitely say that, it was like a bond or anything. I just took part in different things with different persons. But when I left, or basically I just stopped going, no, I can't say that I ever got a call. As I said, maybe nobody even noticed that I wasn't there. I could not tell you. I never made any inquiries anyway. I just continued to live. But no, I never got a call or visit or anything like that, except from family that were members of the church.
Before you left, were you a member of the Sabbath school? Did you go to Sabbath school regularly?
Yes, I was.
And your Sabbath school teacher never contacted you after to find out why you're not in Sabbath school anymore?
Well, I don't know if they contacted maybe some family member, but to reach out to me, no one ever reached out to me.
How old were you?
I was just about maybe 17.
Okay, interesting. All right, thank you so much. Let's go across to Mrs. Thompson. That is, your situation is different. You said something happened. We won't get into the details of what happened, but you were a member of the church board. I am assuming, because if you were the adventure director and women's ministries director, that means you would have been a member of the board. But there was an incident that happened that you felt the church didn't handle correctly, and you got upset. When you stopped going to church, it was your decision, I suppose, because of hurt feelings, that you were not going to associate. What happened in terms of the approach from your elders, your pastor, etc.?
Okay, for me, I can't say I didn't get any calls from a pastor, but not my pastor. I have a very good friend. I call him my spiritual leader, if we use that term in our church. Pastor Bratwitt, he was always there encouraging me, but to say members from the church and the pastor, no. My situation came at a loggerhead a year after. And during that time, I just said to, well, leading up to that year, I just said to Pastor Bratwitt, I was offered a job to sell alcohol, and it's on around the region, and I'm going to take it because I need to work, just basically. So I started traveling every 2 weeks maximum, well, minimum. Yeah, that is being conservative, but I used to be on a plane every week around the region doing work, doing what I had to do. And it just felt was like, okay, this is my escape from all of this. A year after, I got a call to say that they were trying to get a hold of me and could not get a hold of me. But that was strange because the numbers didn't change. And they wanted to have a discussion with me. And by that time, I was fresh out of not wanting to speak to anybody. We have to be very careful, and I am throwing this in now. I'm not going to go into any more details. We have to be very careful of how we handle situations as Christians, because we can be a stumbling block to other people. And for me,
okay. All right. I want to just go across to Brother France. Brother France, you said that you were out of the church for 14 years before you got a contract saying that you were removed from membership. How? I want to. Was it a visit you got? You said, was it a telephone call? You got
Yeah,
a.
it was
Sorry?
Yeah, it was a telephone call.
You got a telephone call saying that you were removed from the membership of the church.
Yes, that's all.
Okay, you were living on the island all this time?
I was living on the island all this time, never moved.
And nobody came to visit you?
Nobody came.
All right, so it is important for me to say to those who are listening, lest you think that the Seventh Adventist Church is a cruel church. We have one Seventh-day Adventist church in the world. We have various congregations. The church has guidelines, principles on which it operates. A church is not supposed to remove a person from membership unless that individual is counseled with. In fact, let me suggest that the church does believe in discipline. We have different forms of discipline. An individual may do something that is wrong, and the church has a responsibility to say that what you have done is wrong. That if an individual commits a public offense that brings reproach on the church may determine that it is going to discipline that person for 1 to 12 months, depending on the severity of the action. But always first visiting the individual, talking with them. Our first approach really should be the salvation of the individual. The principle is in scripture that there is this man who has 100 sheep, and he discovered that one of them is missing. He leaves the 99 and he goes to check out the missing one. The church manual further states that removal from membership, we don't even use the term disfellowship anymore, but removal from membership is a last resort. It should be done only when all other methods, all other approaches to reclaiming the individual has failed, then that is the last resort. So in you getting a call to say that you were removed from membership meant that that was not the correct procedure. You should have been visited. You should have been, counseled to come back to church. So unfortunately, things didn't go right that way. And I'm interested in you saying what happened. When you got that call, what was your reaction? Maybe not necessarily what you told the person, but how did you feel? How did it make you feel?
When I got the call, my fiance, who is my wife now, she was there at the time. When I got the call, we was working on our home, and she saw me cry, and she know that I'm a hard person to cry, and she saw me cry, and I vowed that to her and to my family that even if I die, don't ever church me at a Seventh-day Adventist church. I think I said that because of the way it was done. Bear in mind, I never, leading up to this, had no animosity against the Seventh-day Adventist church. I solely took responsibility for what I have done, and at that point, it made me change my view about that Seventh-day Adventist at that point when I got the call.
Very interesting. Now, I did hear Sister Hughes, and I think you mentioned it too, Brother France. Sister Hughes, you said that you stopped going because you were ashamed to go back. Did I hear you correctly?
I said that from what, sometimes you will just listen to different people when they talk, okay? And you just, put different things together that you can have an understanding. And as I said that, my understanding of it, like, if you had a child out of wedlock, my understanding is that they would disbar you from fellowship. And so if I'm not gonna be a member anymore, I just stopped going. But I don't think it was so much about with the church. I think I was just looking at it in terms of, I didn't know if God would have forgiven me for that. Okay. And, all of those different things. But I didn't have an issue with the church. I mean, like, if that was policy, I just stopped going, just simple as that.
No, that's interesting. And that's the part I want to explore a little bit with you. You felt you did something wrong. And at that particular point in your life, you felt guilty. You felt that maybe God will not forgive me. Am I hearing you correctly?
There were two things. As I said, that what I understood with church, remember I started to go when I was about 10, right? And so basically it's just the little things that you understand from what, you hear the different people would say. And as I said, if you're gonna be this bad, or if you won't be a member anymore, if you're gonna be disfellowship, I just decided to save everyone the trouble and just stop it. That's how I was looking at it. I just decided to save everybody the trouble and just don't go back.
Okay, interesting. Here's this question. Would it have made a difference to you? I know this is a long time ago, because I once served as your pastor, and
Yes, you did.
I originally did not know that you were once removed from the church and came back, until, of course, I heard you share that testimony in church that Sabbath. But would it have made a difference to you back then when you got pregnant if the pastor or your elder or even Sabbath school teacher had come to pray with you, to encourage you, to say, Sister Debbie, you made a mistake, but it's not the end. God still loves you. Do you think that would have made a difference?
Honestly, I don't know. I'll be quite honest. I don't know. You know, I can't say yes, I can't say no. I guess it was just something that I just had to deal with, and God was just working with me until, you know, that time when he called me back. I don't think it's a case where, because I always felt his love. There was never a time I didn't feel his presence. There was never a time I didn't feel his love. But I guess it was just my understanding of things. And so, as I said, if it's a case where I'm going to be disfellowship, I'm going to save everybody the trouble, and I'm just going to go my way. I had no animosity, no nothing. In fact, I never even thought about maybe somebody visiting me. I didn't even know they visit persons when these things happen. So if I knew that that was the expectation, and it, you know, and I was looking out for it, well, yes, I would have felt disappointed. But because I didn't knew any of that, it didn't make a difference for me.
Okay, very interesting. Sister Denise, it sounds like you want to share something right now. All right. Now, I was going to ask about your, but let me just ask it the way I want to. What was the influence on, maybe I need to refine this because one or two of you have already answered that question. Now, I want to clarify something here. In your mind, Sister Hughes, when you got pregnant and you stopped going to church, you left the church, correct?
Explain your understanding of leaving the church.
Okay. Well, that's what I was getting at. So I want to start with your understanding.
Yeah.
Because earlier, Brother Franz said 14 years after he got these two children, he was notified that they had removed his name from the record. So fellowshipping with the believers, you felt, okay, I did something wrong, maybe God would not forgive me, I'm not going to go to church anymore. And that was the extent of your actions, correct?
Because that is my understanding of how the church functions. Okay. I will tell you that even during the time that I was out, I used to get invitation. Imagine, you know, you coming to invite me to my church. And, you know, sometimes I would just smile at it because there's never a point in my life that I didn't consider myself a Seventh-day Adventist. Okay. And when I know my aunt used to invite me, and whenever she did, I went. I remember when I was doing a little gig at St. James, and one of Pastor Roger's son, you know, we became friends, and he invited me and I went. But as I said, from my understanding, I don't know everything, but all I know, when you have a child out of wedlock, you say that you're disfellowship. And so I said, okay, well, I'm just going to save everybody trouble. And that was it. No hard feelings, no animosity. I still spoke to, I never even, as I said, I never considered anything with this because I didn't know that they did all of that.
So you, in your mind, you were always a Seventh Adventist.
Of course.
And Brother Franz, the fact that the letter, I keep saying letter, the call that you got indicating that you're no longer, that bothered you because all along, even though you were out there in the world, you still considered yourself a Seventh Adventist.
Yes. I still consider myself a Seventh Adventist, even though I was there in the world.
And then go ahead, Brother Franz.
Yes, because I left the church at the age of 23 years. All right. And one thing that I experienced, one thing that amazed me living outside of the church, is that people who are outside of the church actually wants to come inside the church. They want to have the same life that you have. And imagine we are looking out to have the life that they have. You know, it was such an experience. It was such an experience for me. One day I was at a party after I left church. I was at a party, and I I see a few of my friends on the other side smoking, and I went over to them and I grabbed the spliff. And as soon as I'm about to put it in my mouth, they hold my hand. He hold my hand, and he told me, "Ras, this is not for you." You know, they call me Ras. They call me Ras at a very young age, right? He said, "Rasa, this is not for you." You see, even though I was out the church, you know, where I worked at the public works department, we have a group of guys, about 30 to 40 of us, and every morning I will help keep worship and so forth. So they knew me, all right, and I saying, wow, this is very interesting. I trying to get the life of them, and they're trying to get my life. All right. So for me, that was a very curious experience outside the church.
Very interesting. I was going to ask Sister Denise a question, but I looked up and realized that our time has expired. Can you believe an hour has gone by so quickly?
It looks as if we're going to need 3 weeks, Pastor.
We definitely will have to wrap up next week because we have something scheduled already for the thing. But I did look at the chat, and I did see somebody saying, "Hey, listen, I may be related to Debbie." I don't remember where I saw that, but I saw in one of the chats somebody saying, "Maybe I'm related to Debbie." Okay, there is an individual saying, "I'm a regular viewer of SLC from Trinidad, and I'm wondering if I am related to your guests, since I was told that the Hughes originated from Antigua." So, Sister Hughes, maybe you have a cousin or some relative over in Trinidad. I don't know. But listen, next week we are going to continue this very important discussion. We're going to talk about your life outside the church, what eventually prompted you to renew that commitment to God, and more importantly, you know, what do you have to say to individuals who may have gone through what you went through, and are contemplating leaving the church? So next week, we want to share some very important insights into this. It was an important discussion. I want to say that as a church administrator, we apologize for the hurt and harm that you suffered during that period, for the missteps that were taken. But we're also going to talk about individual responsibility next week. Well, that's all the time we have for today. To our viewers, remember, we continue this very important discussion with our guests next week. And we want you to join, and we want you to encourage somebody else. You probably know individuals who are outside the church, who used to be members of the church. What we have to share next week can be an inspiration to them. So we want to invite you to let them connect with us next week. May God bless you. That's all the time we have. Until next week.